think it's connecting, I think.
Let's
I
not
hope.
assume.
All right, I guess we're live.
Woo! We're live. Let's see.
I think. There you go.
Okay, let's see. Can you take that?
I'm
Okay.
still sharing the screen.
Yeah, you're still sharing the screen, you and me.
Oh, stop share.
There you
There
go.
you go.
Woo! Woo! I was assuming you did that, but apparently you didn't. Sometimes when we assume it's not the truth. And I think I should have just asked and said, "Hey, is that thing up?" Because I saw it was up, even though I didn't think it would be up. It was up, even though I didn't know, but it was. See, sometimes we got to be confused to understand what we don't understand till we understand what we didn't. Now we do. I hope that got
Yeah.
the people
I,
enough to ask some questions like, are we assuming Tharpo knows what he's talking about? That's an assumption. Sometimes you got to ask those hard questions. Um, I got an example of something like this. So we're talking about assuming, and I assumed I had someone in one of my houses, and I assumed that they were doing what they said they were doing, and they weren't, mistreating the laws that I set up or the boundaries I set up, and yet they weren't. They had animals in the house, they smoked in the house, they tore up the house, and I assumed they wouldn't because, I trusted them. So, not that you shouldn't trust everybody, yet you can start asking questions just to make sure they are trustworthy. And some of the people you think might be trustworthy might not be trustworthy.
well, it doesn't even really have to go on that level.
Okay.
But that's one level to think about,
Yeah,
right? Like when you talk
right.
to somebody and they say, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to take care of your house," and yet then their definition of taking care of your house versus what your definition of taking care of the house is it could be two different things. And this is something that I kind of run into with when I hire new techs and stuff. They're like, "Oh, we need you to tape down the cords. You know how to do that?" And they'll say yes, right? Even though they're new and they don't understand what that means, and yet in their mind they do think they know what that means. And then when they're done with the job, you go back and look at it and you're like, okay, well, I guess we have to go back and go over what that actually means. And then the more you run into people or deal with certain situations, you'll just have to realize that maybe it may feel to you like you're over explaining, yet at the same time, if you want it done a certain way, then you'd have to not assume that they know how you want it done. Because again, it goes back to the map is not the territory. We all have our own way of going through the world. Somebody with 30 years of experience will understand the ins and outs better than somebody who is just starting. So if you assume that somebody else is already on that same educational level as you, then they're just not because they haven't had the experience or been in the industry long enough. Now, the whole I guess you would say hookup that I come into is that I want to treat everybody like they already kind of know or are on the same page because I don't I don't want to come across as like, oh, well, you don't know that, you're not stupid or patronizing. Like I just assumed that you're one of the guys, so just get it done. But I've found they don't have the understanding. And when it also comes to assuming, I found out something when I deal with certain clients or leads, they'll assume that they know how our world works and that they just don't ask the right questions. And like to come back and say, well, why like okay, for example, well, I had one of my clients say, "Oh yeah, I want a laser light show." Well, I understand what a laser light show is. Do you understand what a laser light show is? You know what I mean? So I can I can then guide them it's kind of like I want them to realize that, just when you say that certain sentences to me, that like, okay, I understand that you don't know what you're talking about, but how do I go about telling this person that they don't know what they're talking about, kind of thing? Like, okay, well, how about I redirect you to something over here so it doesn't land so hard that, what you said didn't make any sense. Like, or how do I educate somebody to the point where it's like, okay, now do you understand why that question didn't make any sense? Like, so you just don't assume. So when you walk into a situation, your first question in any situation should be, okay, what don't I know? Do you have any empathy? Are you asking the other people, their experience or where they're at even? Or you just walk in saying, oh, it's got to be done like this, and this. I did an event at a hospital. Was it Halloween? I did it. And the girl comes up to me, totally clueless girl, and she goes, "Oh, do you have one of those foam machines? Foam machines? You got one of those foam machines?" I'm looking around going, I don't I don't really have a foam machine. What are you looking for in particular? Oh, you know how all DJs have a fog machine?
Oh,
Oh,
fuck.
yeah, after, and then I was like, "Oh, fog. Okay." And then I go, "Do you realize what happens to fog when you're outside?" Oh, okay, that's why you don't have it. Here's your sign. I mean, like, but that's somebody, and like comes up to you and they just assume that things run a certain way when they really don't have any clue. And then ask yourself, how many times have you walked into a situation and thought you knew everything and then realized that's not how it works at all. In fact, there's even a term for this. It's called armchair couch, right? Armchair coach. Like if you're watching a football game and you think you know better than the people that are actually on the field, and you're calling all these plays and saying these guys are stupid, why did they do all this stuff? That's assuming you understand everything that's going on in that field, or you even have the years of experience to even be on the field to understand, the ins and outs on how everything works. You're just somebody on the outside enjoying the game. Well, enjoy the game. You're not in there. So that, and speaking of armchair coaches, I went to Green Bay and I got to hang out with some, ex-players and stuff. And that was kind of exciting just to hear them, talk about things that I had no freaking clue about. Like I love the game. I love watching it. I know I'm just a fan. I'd like to see my team win. Yeah, I'm talking to people that were on the field and coached by these people, and they're explaining how the game works, and I'm like, holy cow, I had no idea. Like, and I didn't go in assuming I knew everything. I'm like, I walked in going, what information can I get from these people because they've been on the field, you know what I mean? So, and I like to just, and I've never been so quiet in my life because I realized I walked into a room where everybody had more knowledge about this team than I did, and I was just like, well, what can you tell me? What can you tell me? Because you like these guys knew birth dates of these players and where they live and all this stuff, and I'm just like, okay, well, what's your prediction? So just ask yourself how many times you walk into a situation, or if you explain something to somebody else, that you just assume they understand what it is. If you don't even have like a call response. Here's another practice too. Like you can talk to somebody and say, well, I want X, Y, and Z done. Is that even possible? And then once they say yes, okay, can you repeat it back to me so make sure we're all both on the same page, and you're not just assuming something's going to happen. And that's another reason too why they have like, lawyers and contracts and papers and everything. That's why it's on the paper, so that you're not getting bait and switched, right? So if you went and hired a DJ and just assumed they had a foam or fog machine, like, is that in the paperwork? No. That's why we have things that are in readable material. And if they wanted something extra, well, that's when you put it into the contract. So when it comes to assuming, your first question should be, what am I missing? How can I make the proper moves based on having all the information, or as much information as you can, for whatever your common goal is? So again, if you wanted a laser light show, well, you need certain licenses for that, like you need fog. And if you have fog in a room, are you going to call a fire marshal in case of, the alarms go off? Especially if you're having it at a high school. There's another thing too, when you're dealing with high school students or teachers, I realize they're not event planners and they have all these crazy things in their head. And if you're on YouTube or if you're on TikTok, you think things work a certain way until you actually talk to somebody who's, been in the trenches with whatever it is they're doing. So, uh, I find more, or maybe it's just in my conscious more or whatever, that a lot of people are just walking into something assuming more things than they should. And that brings me up to another conversation I was having with one of my DJs. His name's Phil, because he likes to jump to an assumption, and I always say, or for most times I say, well, that's a good assumption. Yet how about you just kind of not put that into gold and leave it as a theory until you get more information? Like, you may think things are a certain way, and that's fine. I mean, you still have to test and see if that's true or not. So I was explaining to him, he's like, "Oh, do you find it more confusing now that you know all these different language patterns and all this different stuff?" I go, "Not really. I find it, liberating, because I know all the different, I understand there could be more outcomes where he wants to simplify it and just, oh, this has got to be it. So let's just move with that." And I guess, that's your way through the world. And yet, in my position, managing staff and talent and office hours and payouts and clients and sales and all this stuff, I don't want to just jump to an assumption. I want to make sure that I have everything open, because I want to make sure the other person's heard, understood, that things are being executed properly, that I put people with certain talents in the right spot so they can best succeed. So there's a lot of different things that I like to consider, and I don't really find it confusing. I find it liberating, so I can have, like when it's, because we're always dealing with certain situations all the time, depending on what's in front of you. One of our classes is called Sleight of Mouth, and there's like 16 different ways that you can revolve or evolve around any certain situation. And since I'm auditory and I've made friends with all my personas, they'll go through three or four different avenues of what could play out. Like, if you're into something brand new for the first time and you understand that you don't know everything, well, then you start to collect data. Well, this person said this. What do you think he really means by that? And then if you want more training on how things unfold, it's kind of like weird to say that, the subconscious never lies, right? So if you understand that the subconscious doesn't lie, and then you're talking to somebody and they may say something that spikes off your spidey sense, well, you kind of don't jump on that. You kind of like, well, he said this, well, let's see where that plays out. Like, there was one new DJ that I hired, and I'll give you an example. One new DJ that I hired, and I wasn't with him when he was shadowing. It was like his first, like, okay, we'll see what you got. And my DJ was like, well, he kept saying how loyal he was. Oh, I'm loyal, I'm loyal, I'm loyal, I'm loyal. Well, if you keep saying that, how loyal are you? Like, normally someone who's loyal just is, like, you don't have to like reinforce something that you're not, right? So again, you wouldn't jump on that. You would just kind of keep that in your background. Like, is it true? Is it not true? Let's test some more scenarios. You know what I mean? Like, and when you start to really evaluate your past experiences and what's happened, you'll see trends. People that act a certain way will continue to act that certain way, and you can more or less predict what they're going to do. And it's hard, it sounds like voodoo. I know it does. I thought so too, until a lot of things were explained to me. Like, when you see somebody using their hands to talk, that means they're visual, and then you can actually see in their mind where they place certain things out. And me, I'm auditory. I like to pick up on language patterns. So when I hear certain phrases, or when people talk a certain way, like I had somebody else say, "Oh, you can ask this person about this and this person about what I said and this person," and like they go to the whole, like, well, if you don't believe me, well, why wouldn't I believe you? Why would I have to go to all these different people to find out what you're saying to me? And here's another thing too. Like, if you, and like, I was explaining this to Phil like the other day, and if somebody calls you something, like, let's say you're patronizing or something like that, or you're something. Well, number one, if you defend it, then what are you defending? Like, you have to claim some sort of ownership to it if you're defending it, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. I know I'm kind of sporadic right now, and Jeff keeps writing down all the things he wants to talk about. So that's just that's just a few things that that I have on this topic. Just don't go in just assuming that you have as much experience as someone who's done it for 30 years. Just walk into every situation saying, what makes the most sense? Am I in the right spot? Can you get me what I'm looking for? What do I need to know? And I've talked to Tesla managers, or not, SpaceX managers, not even Tesla. This guy was a SpaceX manager, and he was in charge of all the making sure a lot of things were happening with astronauts and I don't know, whatever the hell SpaceX does, right? And just having a conversation with this guy was so enlightening. He was so well spoken. He wrote down his notes. He asked the right questions. Well, one of his major questions was, "What else don't I know?" And that was to me like, wow, no wonder where you are. Like regular people don't ask these questions. Anyway, that was me. I'm Jeff. I'm sure you got like a whole list of things.
Well, I like that that what he said because I wrote that kind of down too is what don't you know? And what do they want to know? And sometimes we can tell them as what we have and knowledge we have to say, here are some of the questions other people have asked me. You know, the lighting situation, and you go in, you know, you can veer it off to somebody else so you don't have to take the blame for anything. You say, you know, in the past, many people have asked me about, you know, this light show. And, you know, light shows can be a little bit difficult sometimes, but sometimes through this, there's so many aspects of light shows. See, there's this. And sometimes in the past, we've gone to a client and said, what specifically do you want? So as we use the assuming, sometimes and also we might assume they know what they're talking about, and a lot of times they don't. So it doesn't matter about a light show or even a DJ or an entertainer. So we want to ask the questions. We want to ask the questions that we need to know, but we also can give the answers to what they might want to know, what they don't know, without seeming to be condescending or any of those other things. So that's one aspect. And what when you walk into a situation, any situation, we have most of us have pretty good spidey senses because Scott, and this is one of the things Scott talked about at first, is that the first, you know, 2 or 3 years, you really don't have as many spidey senses. But as you get older and older, and 30 years in, you've come across a lot of these things that a newbie hasn't. So we have the so when we start assuming the 2 year old or 2 year olds in the field is like a 30 year old, it's not it's not necessarily always true. So we got to have the ability to say, what don't they know? You know, and then call it on that. And then and another thing you can say, what do you mean by that? So this is a good thing you can bring in any time of the time when you're discussing because you want to know what you need to know, but they need to know. And what they say something, like Scott was saying, could you repeat that and tell me what you think I said? You know, because we want to be on the same page because we don't want to have a miscommunication here. And that's assuming, you know, so let's not assume anything. Let's just get it out in the open. Let's clear all the things. And then I'll write a contract. And I want you to look at that contract and see if this is what we agreed on. And that's kind of like what we're doing a verbal contract. And then again, like we said, what sticks out? You know, in your sense, you'll usually see what sticks out. It doesn't mean it's true. And it's sort of like, you know, if you're feeling this guy's kind of edgy because this is the same feeling you got with somebody else, you can say,
Hmm.
why do I feel that way? Is this true? Is it really true? And is this about me or is it about you? You know, who's it about when we're doing that? So, so when we come into a situation and we want to go back and forth, is we want to know what we need to know and what they that we want them to know, and then figure out also, are they uh, well, I started out with assuming that a person was telling the truth, and then we went to a different way. Sometimes we got to say the things to see if these guys are true. And then, you know, I think Scott is so right when he says, put it in a contract. Then nobody can really, if the contract is signed, that means both of you agree on it. And it doesn't matter if you want to agree on it or anything, The legal rights is that contract says what it says, and then the other one really can't get out of it. So if you want to cover your behind, sometimes get the contracts because on you just say my company, we got a similar kind of company. I I don't send out contracts to my entertainers at all, but I send out contracts to the clients because an entertainer, if they don't, if they don't work out, I just don't use them. I don't have to use them. There's no contract. They're not exclusive. Yet they just go down a list that I get the best people I can always. And if I can't guarantee and trust the person on a list, I just don't do the gig. I just won't because it's not worth it to me. So, so assuming I don't, I give them like Scott gives a little handout to say sign this, and this is the reasons, and this is my company policy. I do it on the phone, and then I assume anybody I'm getting to be good, and then when I find out they're not, I just cut them off. It's just a different way. But Scott does; they sign it, but they can still do the same thing. They can still be dishonest and everything, and then he gets rid of them. But it's just two ways about it. But we'll go back to assuming. Don't assume, ask. Back to you, Scott.
Well, yeah, there's so many different things. It's just being aware about any situation that you're going into. And I mean, I guess you don't have to overanalyze things. I mean, once you've had the same experiences over and over again, you know, your spidey sense will go off. I don't just just go in knowing there's something that you don't know. Like, wh- whoever's in front of you, make sure to get a clear vision of what could be going on, right? I don't know, especially having like the contract. That's kind of important. And another thing along with the contracts is that, whenever I do, whenever the phone rings, it records every single call that comes in, so you can go back and analyze in case maybe you did miss something, because that's again, how much data can you collect and keep moving forward from there. And besides recording my phone calls, I also record my Zoom conversations with client consultations just to make sure that we can, well, number one, understand that we're on the same page, and number two, get it to any staff that could be on that event as well. So there's no assuming that they thought something in particular. No, we have the recording of what actually happened, and then you could just take it from there. So, and if you had any questions on show site, you could just, brush up, real quick. And number one, that puts the client at ease because they know you're there to handle whatever their big day is, right? And then, of course, the staff is showing that they care by asking about any questions that they may have, and that'll just cover you in the long run, because we just never assume that things are a certain way. We just want to make sure that we get them right, for our clients, and that just not just for the business. That could be for anything. I also bought this new AI Plod. I
Claude,
haven't actually used it yet, but basically, it's an AI that you can wear as a necklace. And anytime you have ideas or things that you want to record, all you do is hit the button and you start talking, and the AI will audio record you and then transcript it and then make notes for you in a notepad so that you can have your thoughts and all organized and ready to go. So I actually, so
how much,
here's the funny thing, right? When I
how
went
much
to
does
Dallas,
that something like that cost?
it's like 140, so 140. So the funny thing was, when I was in Dallas, there was a presenter, and he owned a very large yacht company that does cleaning for yachts. Jeff Bezos is one of his clients. And I was so moved by his speech that, I kept running into him because he also went to the conference, right? So I took a picture with him, and then I was like, talking to him. And then I sat down next to him because we went to another presenter together, and he just clicks on his shirt, and he's like, well, I was like, what the hell is that? And he's like, oh, it's called Plod, and it's an AI, and it's recording all the presenters as I walk into the room. It does the audio recording, and then, jots out all the notes. And then I was going to have a conversation, a meeting with somebody locally, and I was like, well, damn, I need one of those so that I don't forget anything. So I bought it. The meeting never happened, but now I have it for. I started YouTubing what else it could do. So like let's say you need a grocery, so you can just click the button. It'll do the grocery list and then fire it off to wherever you want to fire it to, and then there you go. I was in Wisconsin, so I didn't really use it a whole lot. I didn't want to, record around those guys because, oh, what are you doing recording? No, no. But I'm gonna start using it this week,
Was that a
especially.
verbal command? Like send it to my email, send it to my
Um,
RD?
so basically, when you record into it, it makes notes, and then one of the YouTube videos I saw doesn't really organize the notes. So if you had something about groceries or if you had something about business projects, it wouldn't change all that. But that's a 2-year-old video. I bet they fixed that. But it syncs it syncs to your iPhone, kind of like notes do. But you don't have to write anything out or type anything out. You just talk to it. It does an audio recording, and then you get to have the audio file, and then it transcribes it, for Notepad. And when I got it, one of my mind was exploring, which assuming, right? I didn't know what it could or couldn't do, but I would just turn it on, have it record my personality, and then throw the audio recordings inside of an AI, and then, well, if I passed away, my daughter would have someone to talk to if I just had it recording all the time. So that's what I was thinking. I don't know if it
I want
does all
one.
that, but that's assuming. But that's the idea I had.
I want one. Send me
Plod,
the info.
plod, yeah, plod. I just went
How
on
do you
Amazon.
spell it?
Plaud. They have different ones. The one I got was the one I clipped to my clothing.
It- Okay, cool.
Plod note taker. Yep. Or note pin is what I got. No pin. But yeah, that guy was pretty cool. Jeff Bezos is one of his clients. His yacht. He cleans his yacht.
Well, with that little gadget there, you can also ask the questions that you need to know. When you go to an event, you say, uh, you could have one of those on when you're scoping the room and say, these are the things I would like to find out for the next event. What should I do? All the questions, and during the event, say, could this be better? When the client asked me about the lighting, I told them this, and this, and yet I left out that because I wasn't even thinking that they wouldn't know. But apparently they didn't know it had to have electricity. What were they
There-
thinking? And it's
There's
like,
so many things. I'll have conversations and then I'll walk away later going, well, I should have mentioned this, and this.
so that's a great tool, I would say.
I,
I'm gonna
I
get
I
one.
actually used like the idea of it because I record my phone calls. A client called me up and they started going over the timeline for the events, and I was like, "All right, just keep talking. I'm gonna download the audio, put it into my uh transcriber, and then put it into my Chat GPT, and then have it make a timeline." It made a timeline for me in less than 5 minutes. So there's all these different things you can do.
Wow.
But yeah, check it out. Let me know if you like it. Um, they didn't sell the necklace with it. I had to buy the necklace separate. A chain, basically, you hook it in like it gives you the magnet to put on your clothes, but the chain is something I bought separate.
Yeah, you could probably just use one of those things you get at any uh, convention.
Yeah,
I've got like 50, 100 of them.
there you go. So
Yeah.
yeah, there you
So
go.
if you ever been at a convention, they give you a little thing to wear on you, so a
Lanyard.
lanyard, and you can buy lanyards for $2 or $3, or you can get chain like he did and spend it on gold. Then you'll have a gold
It
chain.
is a tiny hook.
Oh, it's a tiny hook.
So maybe you have one of those. I don't know.
Put it on your watch.
Oh yeah, they have a you could buy a watch, like a wristband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have accessories for it.
La, la, la.
Yep.
That's cool. That is so cool. Yeah. So I didn't I see I assumed, hey, when Scott buys something, I assume it's going to be good.
Yeah. It was highly recommended from I freaking forgot his name, but I have to go. It's in one of these books. He was the presenter.
So, And Scott gets no money for telling you that information. So
Yeah, I'm not sponsored
not
by them
he's
or
not
anything.
an affiliate. He doesn't get money for. So if you get it, and he takes no responsibility for
Don't
his.
assume.
Don't assume because he hasn't used it 100% either. He just got it and he's going to do it. And this is off another referral. So he will learn, and it might not have been the one he wanted. He said there were more types. And what you have to do is decide which type is right for you. And that's what I'll have to do too. So man, I'm stoked about it, boy. I've got a whole use for it. I do puns. I
Oh
love
yeah, well there you go.
so I learning to do puns and to do multiple thousands of puns. So and as you do well anything you learn, it gets easier to learn the next step. So uh, my dog, I had two dogs. One was named uh, Timex and one was named Rolex. They were watchdogs.
Yeah, I bet. Watch out for them.
Yeah, I know. They were dogmatic. It was rough.
Yeah,
Well,
what a good time.
yeah. So, any other last thoughts here on this stuff?
Oh, I think that's about it. I didn't realize you'd be excited about the plot.
I know. I'm very excited about it. Actually, I think it's a great tool. You know, assuming,
Assuming.
yeah. If you assume you know everything, you're probably assuming wrong. I there's probably, and here's somebody else said, and I believe it could be true, is that everybody in the world can teach you something. Everybody. So you just got to have yourself open to learning what they're teaching. So keep that in mind as we learn, and we learn every day, we change every day. There's only one thing constant in life. Now, there might be other, but we breathe and live. But one of the things that are constant change. You cannot not change. So every single second of your life, you're changing and becoming the next you. After one moment's gone, you go to another one and you live your life till your time on earth is over. So what are you going to do with your time on earth? As because I see that because as I get older, I'm not as young as I used to be. And me assuming I'm going to be in, oh, here's a thing I want to throw in just to throw it in is assuming you're always going to be in good health. If you don't do something today to stay in good health, the less you do, the more you won't have later on. So, uh, because you know, I usually wear my happiness coach thing, but usually that's one of the biggest pillars of happiness is health. You know, how you feeling each day because it's a lot harder to be happy when you're not feeling good. So keep that in mind and don't assume you can be who you are for the rest of your life without maintaining yourself. Woo!
There you go.
There you go. I was a ham, but I've been cured.
All right, so I think that's about it for today.
Bye, everybody. You guys don't be assuming. Don't be assuming. Let's ask these questions.
All right, guys.